Okay, never mind. Not 3, 2, 1. I forgot how slow Zoom connecting to YouTube is. Um, I'm not ignoring you, by the way. I'm looking at my phone to make sure when we're live.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Uh, Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host, Ruari, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have Ian Hultquist, best known for being the composer on The Walking Dead, Dead City, Dickinson, Good Girls, Turtles All the Way Down, One of Us is Lying, The Faceless Lady, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Full Circle, Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, Animals, Bronx Gothic, Rosaline, Look Both Ways, Assassination, Die in a Gunfight, Night Thief, AXL, and The Diabolical. Ian was also a composer on Marvel 616. How are you today, Ian?
Good, how are you? I think that was almost my entire filmography.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing well, and I hope you are as well. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and it was a lot of the filmography. It was even longer before, even with documentaries and stuff. And I was like, there's a lot of great credits here. I'm gonna have to cut some, or else we'd be here a while just me talking and mentioning things. But yeah. Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. So, getting right into my questions for you, Ian, can you tell me how you decide to become a composer and get into music as a career?
Um, yeah, that's a good one. I was always interested in music from a young age. I grew up listening to like the Beatles a lot with my family, and I didn't grow up with like a piano in the house or anything, so I kind of had to find seek out music. And it always became it was something that I would do with my friends as like a shared experience, either learning how to play guitar together, like starting bands together. But it was always like the fun thing. It was always like the thing that I did as to like release or like as a creative outlet. It wasn't necessarily like my focus until it got time to start thinking about college after high school. And that's when I think I re first really decided like I want to actually try and do music like legitimately and like really see what happens with that. Um, and it's funny because as much as I love music, I loved film even more. I was always watching TV and film, always going to the movies. It was literally like my favorite thing is just go sit in a dark theater and watch something amazing. Um, and it wasn't until about halfway through college where I realized that I could study film scoring. I was like, oh my God, I can do music and movies at the same time. Why didn't no one tell me this? So I think that's what really just like it became so exciting to me to think that that's something that I could even try to do. Because I think for the longest time, again, it was just like music was like the fun thing. I'm no John Williams. I'm not a prodigy on any instrument. But I love music and I love to play music and I love film. So it was just like, how do I put these two together? And I think once I graduated college and was playing music professionally, I think that's where I really felt like deep down in my heart, just like I want to work as a composer. I really want to write music for film and just tried to make that happen any way I could. Really started from, from the ground and worked my way up. Was I was playing in a band for a long time, but when I would be off tour, I wasn't doing anything at all. I'd just be sitting around all day. So that's when I would really take that time and start focusing it on scoring, learning how the new technology works because what we were taught at school was already pretty outdated and things are moving so fast. Learning about mixing, learning about arranging, and then also trying to get any sort of opportunity I could to write music for media. So I would reach out to a lot of friends and ask people like, do you have anything I could possibly work on for free? I don't care. Like I just want to get my feet wet. I want to try stuff. So I spent a lot of years just doing a lot of really, really small short films, commercial demos, things like that. And it was a good, handful of years of that until my first break at doing a long form documentary and an indie narrative as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. And going back to what you said as well, I mean, that's just incredible. Like, you were obviously a big fan of film, but you didn't realize, you could do this as a career because you love to do music as well. Like, isn't it just incredible how, that comes about, that you realize, oh, I can do this. I can do music and film together. I mean, that's just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of a eureka moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So, can how were you hired to be the composer on The Walking Dead Dead City?
So Joe Dinnan, who is the co-producer of the show, I had worked with him on Dickinson a few years beforehand, and he reached out just kind of out of the blue. And I think he actually reached out to my agent, just like, would Ian have any interest in possibly working on a Walking Dead show? Um, and we hadn't really talked since we'd worked together before, so it'd been a while. Um, and I was loosely aware of kind of what was being cooked up in that world. But yeah, he reached out and I had a meeting with him and Eli Journet, our creator and showrunner, and just kind of like had a chat about what they were planning, what they were trying to envision with the show. And it sounded super exciting to me. And I was just like, yeah, this sounds amazing. Um, I I don't even know if I demoed for it actually. I think we just had a talk about it and uh we clicked right away. Like it kind of made sense. I think we all saw the same thing at the same time. And I think that's what's always interesting when you meet on a new project is like, can you how quickly can you start speaking the same language? How quickly do you see what the other person is seeing or like think what they're thinking? Um, and it doesn't mean like it was a perfect, right off the bat, everything was golden and like it was super easy, like complete opposite from the truth. But we all had the same intent. And I think that's really makes or breaks a project. It's like if everyone comes in with like the right intent for it. So yeah, they hired me before they actually started shooting. It was pretty early. And I actually came up starting to write kind of like a score suite, if you will, just kind of like to get the sounds of the world together, to kind of get some ideas going of what this could be. And then that was summer 2022. And then by late fall, we were kicking off starting to work on the first episode.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's great to have those relationships, in media, whether it's, composers or actors, wherever, the Dickinson relationship already. Like, I mean, that's just brilliant that, that
Yeah.
helped you with the Dead City hiring.
Yeah, that's amazing when it happens. It doesn't always, but like those are the best jobs and those are the best people. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. Were you a fan of the Walking Dead franchise prior to your hiring?
Yeah, I was. I'd read some of the comics, and I had watched a lot of the show actually. I mean, from the second it started, I remember watching the first episode still in my Brooklyn apartment and being like absolutely terrified because I am actually really scared of zombies. And that the whole first season, but like the first episode especially, is like such a masterpiece. It's so incredibly done, and it just had such like a strong atmosphere and vibe to it that I thought was so incredible. But yeah, I kept up with it for a long time. I think I did fall off around like season 8 or so. But I would still actually read recaps and just kind of see what's happening in the world and kind of keep in mind like what's going on with the story. And then I was also paying attention to what was going on with a lot of the spin-off shows because there's been quite a few at this point. The first season of Fear the Walking Dead I watched, which I also thought was absolutely terrifying. At that point, I was living in LA and they shot in a lot of the places I would go to, so it made that much more scary for me. Um, and then yeah, so I was kind of I would pay attention like what's happening in the world and see like, oh, they're coming up with some more ideas like these aren't really spin-off shows, they're sequel shows because like now we've moved past the flagship. Now the new stories are taking place. So it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And yeah, I mean, the first couple of episodes of the show, like Days Gone By and Guts, of the flagship show, they're like still two of my favorites, even though the show had 11 seasons, the first two episodes still among my top favorites. I thought they were that good.
Yeah, they're incredible. I need to rewatch those actually. I want to relive them.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned with Los Angeles and Fear the Walking Dead, I mean, how creepy is that when you're like, I recognize that location?
Yeah, it was freaky, honestly. There's a scene in particular, I think it's Silver Lake. I think it might be like part of the cold open. But yeah, I was like, I was just there at the farmer's market last weekend.
Yeah, it's super creepy. Next up, next time you revisit there or whatever, there'll be walkers or something. You'll just have that image in your head now.
Yeah.
So, what was your reaction when you found out you would be scoring Dead City?
Uh, it was a mixture of excitement because I really wanted the job. I thought for multiple reasons, just thought it'd be such a cool thing to do. And then also immediate fear of like, oh my God, this is a big show. Like, can I handle this? A lot of the TV work I've done as co-scores with my wife and partner Sophia, and this one was just me. So I was a bit, I was nervous, but I was definitely excited. And I think also just like very determined. Like I really wanted to do something cool, and I I felt like Eli and Joe like both were opening the door for me to do that. So I was grateful, and it just felt like a good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. And who knows, maybe Sophia will be brought into, a
Yeah.
future season or something. That would be cool. Yeah. So yeah, so hopefully one day. So what has it been like coming up with the scores for Dead City? Like, can you talk us through your typical day working on the show?
Uh yeah, it varies. It's been a minute since I worked on it because we were working on it. We finished March 2023. So it's I have to like put my head back into space a little bit. But it was, once we really got into it, it was a bit all consuming, I will say. Um, and in a good way, but it was just like it took a lot of creative effort and a lot of focus and determination. But it is similar to other TV projects you work on where it's basically you have an episode. Hopefully it's the lock cut of the episode, which means that the picture will not change anymore. Sometimes you're working on a cut that's not locked yet, and picture will be constantly changing as you're trying to write music to it, which is always super fun for everyone. Um, but yeah, it would just kind of going through the episode. Usually, once you get one, you'll do a spotting session with Eli and multiple producers, the music team. Like the music team on the first season, we had Zach Millman as our music editor. He's amazing. Um, and we will kind of just go through the episode and find out where music's been put in, where we want music to come, what we want the music to do. Maybe a lot of times we'll use temp music in a show or film, and the temp music may or may not be helping us. Sometimes it's not quite doing what you want it to do, or sometimes it's doing something actually really effective, and you want to try and capture that and do the same thing in your side. So it would just be kind of going cue by cue and going down the list. Like I usually will start at the top of an episode and work my way down. I don't like jump to one scene and move around too much. Um, I also like because I did write a bit of music beforehand with the score suite, it's like always kind of going back to that, being like, oh, the theme I write here, could that be applied to a new character here? Or could this work for this situation? Like one of the themes that I had written in my original score suite actually became the Croats theme in season one, which I'm proud of because it doesn't always work. You'll do a score suite and it's not to picture, it's just kind of to the story. And it might be really cool and sound great, but it may not actually apply itself to picture. It doesn't stick. So whenever you can get something to stick, it's always like, yay, I did it. So that's one I'm proud of that I actually like, wrote and it stuck to it well. But yeah, it's just, I also try and treat my job like a 9 to 5 in a way where I have a small kid. So, when they're away at nursery, I am in the studio 9 to 5, and once they're out, I'm out. And I try not to come back in unless I absolutely need to.
Yeah, that's completely fair, of course. Yeah, so which scores for Dead City would you say you're most proud of?
Um, I really like the Croat theme that I mentioned earlier. I think it's super haunting and weird, and because he was our big bad of the season, it felt very fitting for him. Especially like I think the moment at the end of episode 2 where originally that was gonna be the first reveal of him, and they actually added him into episode 1. But the way it was written, it was just like so imposing. It kind of felt like the Joker being revealed for the first time, and I was just like, yeah, so this feels good. Like this feels cinematic and epic. There's a lot of other moments. There's a lot of really fun action scenes. I won't say who she's fighting if no one's seen it, but Maggie fights a really demonic figure towards the end of episode 5 in the sewers. And that was like a really crazy thing to score. Just trying to find all is like you got to keep the intensity up. You want it to be scary. But you also have to hit the action beats and like move with the choreography that's happening and the ups and downs of it. Um, I'm also really proud of I don't want to spoil it again, but there's a moment between Maggie and Negan in the last episode, and it's actually a very emotional scene, and it kind of I think catches everyone by surprise because Negan goes through such a huge change throughout the season where, you know, especially for anyone who at least made it through like season 7 or 8 of the original show, they know Negan as the villain. Like he is the ultimate big bad. No one has ever been worse than him, more or less. Like he's done the unforgivable that many people haven't. Uh, and once we get to the end of our show of Dead City, that I think everyone looks at him in a very different light. I know I do. Um, I still have a chip on my shoulder of what he's done in the past, but his character has grown and changed so much, and like you really look at him differently. And I think this moment in particular, where Maggie and Negan have this exchange, I think is just like very poetic and moving, and uh, I just felt like it came off really nicely. Like, I think the acting with our characters is so good, and the moment is so well done. Um, I think any scene like that in our show where like we've elevated things up a bit more. Like it feels a bit more cinematic, a bit more real, a bit more emotional. I'm always there for that. That's the exciting thing. That's like what kind of gets me out of bed in the morning. Like I want to make those moments happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. And yeah, I mean, Negan and Maggie are just so interesting characters. They've had a long legacy in the show, but Dead City, still finding new ways to develop them is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I loved your description for that particular character as demonic. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just incredible how even after 11 seasons of the flagship show and multiple spin-offs, they're like still coming up with these unique character designs that you're just like, how do they keep doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I remember reading that. I was like, how are they going to pull this off? And then I saw it. I was like, all right, they did it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Which scene or scenes in Dead City did you find the most challenging to come up with the scores for?
Um, all of it? No. Uh, what was tough was a lot of episode 2 was very difficult. And actually, we started working on episode 2 before episode 1 because they had to do some additional scenes to shoot in that. So 2 is more complete. And I think the whole opening of episode 2 is like a 4-minute chase sequence through this building. And it was super tricky to find the right one. I was almost setting the tone for the show right off the bat with that, which was tricky because like we're already an episode in, but this is the first thing that I'm seeing. And two, to kind of follow that chase scene in a way that felt appropriate, that didn't feel like too much this way or too much that way. Because there's so many different ways you could score it, and like we could make it like really, I'll say like Star Warsy, like you hit every action beat, it's like very bombastic and exciting. You could do it like very synthy, and a lot of our inspiration for the show was like old John Carpenter movies and scores. Uh, but like you can't lean too much one way or the other, and like trying to find that middle ground between those was super tricky. And then also in that episode, there's a huge Negan moment towards the end where the old Negan comes back. The Negan that we remember from season 7 and 8, he comes back for a moment. Uh, and finding the right tone for that was very tricky because I think it's a very grotesque scene. For people who haven't seen it yet, it's very gross and disturbing. But it was also tricky to find. I think I wanted to push like a Negan theme really forward in that, but I think Eli kind of really just wanted to let the scene speak for itself. So we kind of ended up with like a bit atonal of a drone in a way, but and then Negan's themes come more prominently through later on. But that was a super tricky one too that we just like couldn't quite hit it right. And then once we got past like episode 1 and 2, things started clicking a bit better, and character themes started landing a bit more on their feet, and it all started making a bit more sense.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So, a large part of what made the flagship show so popular is the music from Bear McCreary. Was it daunting at first scoring Dead City, knowing that the franchise is so huge and beloved?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that was a big part of why I was so nervous when I first got the gig, because like I'm aware of it. I know what this is. I know how much this means to people. I know how long people have invested in the show. And Bear did such an incredible job that his theme is still so iconic. And I think anyone who ever hears The Walking Dead and has heard that will immediately equate those two things together. Um, the the good thing for me is that we didn't want to use anything from that. We really want to create our as if we were doing a brand new show. Like, yes, our characters we know from previous things, but no theme or piece of music was carried over from the previous thing. We did everything from scratch, which was scary, but also like in a way it's nice because like I don't have to worry about trying to mimic or replicate or one up something. It's just like we're doing our own thing. This is our own world. We're in a new environment that we've never ever seen in any of the Walking Dead seasons before of Manhattan. So I think that was the greatest gift they could have given me. It was just like, don't worry about that. Worry about what's in front of you. This is all that matters. Um, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Because with something so iconic as The Walking Dead, obviously it would be, very easy to just go, we're gonna, use this score, that score. But then, it's like, but being able to do your entire own thing is just like it just gives you such freedom to bring your own take to the franchise, put
yeah,
your own stamp all over it.
yeah. I'm really grateful they did that. Actually, we didn't. I don't think they even used temp from the previous show, like in temp music. So that was nice. Like we really drew a hard line, being like, this is a new thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of direction are you given from the Dead City crew when scoring the show?
Uh, it depends. I know that we Eli never wanted to do anything that was too melodic or overly saccharine. That was a buzzword is saccharine. Uh, and that scene I mentioned earlier in episode 6, Pete Negan and Maggie. My first couple of versions were way too saccharine, so I had to peel it back a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think it was a lot of like not overdoing something, like finding the most minimal way to make a statement with the music. Which is why a lot of the cues do end up being like very kind of atmospheric and patty, and it's doing just enough without going over the top until we get to moments where we can really let loose, like the big action scenes, like we kind of like really let go there a bit more. But it was a lot of that. It was like a lot of like restraining. It was like uh I would try something and be like, I like this, but that is way too much. Like this melody's too much. I just like the under thing, the pad underneath it. Or finding ways to make sure they feel scary. Because I think that's one thing with any horror genre is like actually making things feel scary. I say the same thing about when I work on comedy. Like comedy is so difficult to work on because it's very hard to make music funny. Uh, it's very tricky without sounding like Looney Tunes, which there's a time and a place for that, and it's amazing. But not everything is that. And I think really great comedy and really great horror should feel scary or funny on its own without music, and music should only be there to really kind of just like push it that much further, like take it from 99 to 100%. I think that's when things are done really well, that's like the best case scenario. Sometimes you need music to do a bit more of a heavy lift than that, but ideally not.
Yeah, of course, for sure. So Dead City has been renewed for a second season, which I'm very excited for. What are you looking forward to with the second season?
Yes, I'm excited too. They're in production right now. I don't know. I think about it's okay to say that. They're shooting. I've read the scripts and I'm gonna be back scoring it, and it's exciting. Um, there's a lot. I'm gonna get shot if I say anything out of turn, but I'll just say there's gonna be new characters, and there will be more settings in our Dead City that I'm really excited to see. I hope they look as cool as I think they will. Um, I think that's all I'm gonna say. So AMC doesn't come find me.
Yeah, of course, I wouldn't want them to find me either.
Yeah,
I mean, they'd be like, "There's the interviewer. He
yeah.
is a recognizable face." Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm very excited for it as well. Like, yeah, I love the first season, so I can't wait for the second season. And
Thanks.
great to get confirmation that you're returning for it as well.
I will be back. I'm very excited and
Yeah,
grateful.
yeah, brilliant, fantastic. So, what would you say are your favorite memories from your time working on Dead Cities so far?
Uh, I think the playback sessions were really nice. Where like the mixed playback sessions, where basically my work is done and we're just kind of sitting in the mix watching it. I was doing it all remotely because I had moved to London at that point. So I was just on Zoom, but we're all on camera together. And also Lauren Cohan, who plays Maggie, is a producer on the show, and she was there for all of our spotting sessions and playback sessions. Which so it was really nice to have her involved and like be commenting on the music. She's such an awesome person. Uh, and I think those are always fun because it's like it's a bit celebratory for me because it's like, yes, I made it through. I've made it to another episode. And two, just kind of like getting to see it all mixed in. You get to see the final visual effects, which you don't always see while as you're working on it. You get to see, you get to hear all like the amazing sound design that's done by the sound design team, and just kind of see it all put together. And I think those are always good moments. Also, because then like the thing I like about TV is it's so constant. You're constantly communicating with the music editor. You're constantly communicating with Eli and the production team, and it feels very camaraderie. Is that a word? It feels like camaraderie, and I like that because composing, I'm just in this room by myself all the time. It's very solitary. So I like it when I feel like I'm really part of a team and we're doing it together. So I think that's why mixed playbacks are always fun because it's like, hey, we did it, team. Good job.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Camaraderie. That sounds like a good word. I'm not sure if it really exists,
I
but
might not.
we should make it. Like it started here on the podcast. Like,
Yeah.
we should just run with it now. Who cares what the dictionary says? Yeah, but that's brilliant as well that Lauren Cohan got to be in some of your sessions. I mean, Maggie's my favorite The Walking Dead characters. That's really cool.
Oh, nice.
Did she have any particular feedback that you remember?
It was all positive. Yeah, she always loved it. Nothing negative on mine. They would talk about they would go back and forth on sound design a lot, just kind of making sure things that like no one would ever really think about, but they're very in tune to, like that bird caw is too loud, things like that, like very like minute details. But no, music she loved. She's very happy about it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, what were the biggest challenges that you faced working on Dead City so far?
Uh, I think it was just making sure that it was kind of getting everything in the right place tonally, and making sure it felt right for our show, didn't feel too much like any other show, and really felt like its own thing. Like making it feel unique, I think was a very strong point that we all wanted to achieve and make happen. And I think we did, but it definitely took a while. It was a lot of trial and error for sure. Like the score suite that I originally wrote for it, some of it eventually made its way into the show. Like the Croat theme worked really well, but a lot of it didn't necessarily carry over because it was a bit more, it's a bit too like 70s synth grunge, which was a reference that we made at the beginning, but it was too much of it. And it's like, how do we take elements from that but still apply it to the show without only doing that? So it's like kind of it was interesting. The palette of the instruments just kind of being this big mix of like synthesizers and a lot of sampled sounds. I work with this great guy named Ben Van Lissingen, and he does a lot of field recording. And he would like send me pieces of or recordings of him like banging like metal walls and stuff like that. And we would take that and distort it and pitch it down and like turn that into like drums for the show, things like that, which really helped kind of feel like, okay, this feels like the world of the show. Because we wanted it, the original idea was like, this should feel like the sound of the dead city. Like the dead city is its own sound. Like everything is an instrument. It's all decrepit and rusted and old. Like everything is noisy and weird. And it's stuff that our characters have never heard before because they've been living in, rural Georgia for however long. And now they're in a gigantic metropolis that's half fallen apart. So like, what does that sound like?
Yeah, absolutely. On a similar note, like one of my favorite like shots in the first season of Dead City is when Maggie Negan and one other guy are on the boat, heading towards Manhattan, and
Mm,
like the clouds just part ways, and you just see a completely dead and sullen city, as if
yeah,
there was no life in it. Like I just absolutely loved, everything about that scene where they first see Manhattan as just completely dead.
yeah, I
Like
love
that,
that scene.
yeah, that was just a powerful shot, where it just parts and it's, completely dead, and you're just like, bloody hell. I mean,
Yeah,
imagine if that was Manhattan in real life.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, crazy. So another favorite project of mine that you worked on was Dickinson. Can you tell me how you were hired to work on Dickinson?
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Um, yeah, so that's a show that I co-scored with my wife Sophia. Um, that one actually it was super random. We literally got a call out of the blue. Again, my agent like was texting us, being like, "Call me, call me, call me," and I'm just like, "What? What's going on?" And I don't know how it happened. Like someone, and someone told that person, and somehow the showrunner and creator Elena Smith and David Taylor, who's the head of music at Apple TV, got our names and were like, "We want you to score the show." And we're just like, "Excuse me, like what are we talking about?" Um, and yeah, we like had a couple emails with them exchanged, and basically they were already a few episodes into post production. I think they may have tried it with someone else and it wasn't quite working. So they were kind of on a time crunch and just had to go. So we were literally kind of like thrown into it. It's like they somehow got our names. They liked whatever music they heard from us, and we're just like, "Here's this show. Do you want to score it?" And we're like, okay, sure. Let's do it." Um, so it was very quick and out of nowhere. But we kind of they came to us in December of 2019, I think it was. And we basically took that whole Christmas break for 2 weeks. This is pre-kid, so we could literally sit in the studio all day and all night, all the time. And we just came up with ideas and tried a bunch of stuff. And we knew that they were going for a really different vibe for anything that's happened with Emily Dickinson before. We knew we wanted contemporary and interesting, and we knew we wanted the score to feel like any cue could be a song and not necessarily a score piece. Almost every score cue is like something someone might Shazam, be like, "What song is this?" But it's not. It's us. That was a big thing for us. So yeah, then January, and I guess this is 2018, not 2019. Yeah, 2019 was when we really started working on it. Um, and yeah, I think we spent those 2 weeks just coming up with ideas, and then early January we jumped back in and we're like, "Here's a bunch of music. What do you think?" And then kind of went from there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And like it's very interesting how like the behind the scenes works and all that, because obviously Dickinson ended up being a very popular show, but it seemed like getting the composers was a bit interesting if they try to get someone else, and
Yeah.
that didn't work out. And but I mean that's really cool, because obviously, like actors, you have to like, I mean, I'm not sure you'd call it auditions, but you won't usually get hired right away. But
Mhm.
you like here, you were offered it right there. Like,
It
that's
it doesn't happen
amazing.
very often. I know. It's usually like a much more drawn out process. Like you're usually, you have to you get pitched for something and then they might be interested and you might have a conversation, you might demo for it, and you're up against 5, 10 other people. And there's just like this whole vetting process. I tend to end up in these situations where it's like, we need you now. Do you want to do this? It's like, okay. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, Dickinson is always going to hold a special place in our hearts because we just love that show so much. And it was also, I think, for Sophie and I, it was like our first kind of bigger show. It's like it was Apple TV's one of their first shows ever. So it was very exciting to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So, what was your experience like scoring Dickinson, and your favorite memories from your time working on that?
I mean, it was great. It was Dickinson always kind of felt like this big art project in a way. Like Elena was so creative and just knew Emily's life inside and out and just knew so much about her, knew exactly what she wanted. Uh, that it was always just interesting to be like, what do we have in store for us for this episode? Um, and I think just like writing the music, like one really utilizing Sophia's voice as a tool and as like a character of its own. That we've done it a few other times, but I think in that show particularly, like it stuck to Emily so well. It really embodied her inner thought, and just kind of coming up with like some absolutely ridiculous pieces of music that for some of the comedy scenes that like we normally wouldn't do, but like we're kind of like the scenes we're asking for it. I think were so fun. Getting to collaborate with the cast a little bit in season 2 and 3. There's a couple of, like musical episodes where we kind of go back and forth and create songs for them to sing and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of good times. I love that show.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Which score or scores are you most proud of from your work on Dickinson?
Uh, there's a bunch. I guess one big one is well, not a big one, but a small cue from the very first episode. I think it's called Can I Tell You a Secret? And I think that's just because it's the first cue where everyone, every producer, us, Elena, everyone was like, yes, that's it. That is our show. Like that, like nailed it on the head. And I think that kind of like every project you get is like a science formula and like or sci it's like a science experiment. And you got to figure out the right formula for it to work. And every road that you take to get there is a different one. And sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's painful and long. But that was like, this is the formula. We got it. Let's follow this. In episode 2, we did the song Split the Lark with Ella Hunt singing, which was just incredible. That's one of my favorite moments. Um, a lot of stuff in season 3 I'm proud of, but I guess the final cue that we did, This Was a Poet, I like cannot listen to without crying. We were crying writing it. It was just like we tied back to the last cue of episode of season 1 where she says I am a poet to her father. And then also we're coming off of the incredible Eric Satie piano piece and transitioning to the score. It's just like there's a lot of things firing in that. Just like, oh my God, this is a cool thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And which scene or scenes did you find the most challenging scoring for Dickinson?
Uh, some of the short comedy scenes will be really tricky because, as I was saying, like you only have like 10 seconds or so, and to kind of create like a whole musical sting in 10 seconds is surprisingly hard because it's you don't have any time to develop anything, and you can only hit so many things in those 10 seconds. So those can be really tricky. Um, another one that was an interesting challenge was in season 3, the whole sequence with Walt Whitman played by why am I blanking on his name? Billy Eichner. It is incredible. He's so ridiculous in that. He's just shouting the whole time, like spouting prose. And we had the ridiculous idea to make it all basically like freeform jazz, which is like a great idea, but you need to like actually make that happen. And that's not something you can just mock up easily, really. You need humans to do it. So we got to have a few people come in and play saxophone and drums and upright bass and piano and like it just put it all together and it was a wild ridiculous experiment but I think it works so well and makes it so funny and just like is perfect for the setting. It was a challenge but I'm glad we got it done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So you've also composed scores for many other great projects in your career, including the likes of Good Girls, Turtles All the Way Down, One of Us is Line, and many more. Which are your favorite projects that you've worked on?
uh I mean Turtles All the Way Down that just came out I'm super proud of. One, I'm so happy it came out because we finished that film almost 2 years ago. And we've just been waiting and hoping that it would see the light of day, and thankfully it has now. Um, but I'm just really proud of that score. I got to write some really cool music that wasn't too influenced by other things as I was writing it. It was kind of very open-minded in a way and kind of true to me. And sometimes you can do that and but it just won't stick to the picture. But a lot of what I wrote for this stuck right away. And especially like the end cue, Love is How I Become Real, like that is almost basically my original demo verbatim, just with a different mix, and we recorded live strings to it. But like Hannah Marks, our amazing director, like just loved it. She's like, "That's it. That's going in the movie. That's ending the movie," and it works so well. It's such a huge moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. But like, I mean, that's really fascinating, the like 2 year turnaround time on the music, because usually with music, it's done a lot sooner, to something's release, So like that sounds like it's pretty rare that like, you had to wait 2 years to see how it all came about.
Yeah, I know. It's Warner Brothers playing tricks on us, but it's out now, so we can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So if you had to pick any scores you've done on any project in your career, which are you most proud of?
Uh, that's tricky. I filmed my first film I scored Animals. I'm always proud of. Um, I think the theme I wrote for Bobby and Jude is really awesome. I'm proud of that one. The whole Dickinson series I love. Uh, Dead City I'm proud of. I'm looking forward to Dead City season 2 because I'm really hoping to like expand that even more. And I think it's going to be a really fun one. Sophie and I also co-scored a documentary called The First Monday in May a while back, and I'm always proud of that score. And that's out of anything that I've done, the amount of people that have come forward wanting to license that music for their project is really interesting. I don't know why. Out of anything else that we've done, there's just something about that one that they come to, which is great. Uh, so definitely proud of that one for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I suppose it's probably best they try to license that then, at Dead City, because then you're
Yeah,
like, what are you going to use it for? It's
yeah,
zombies. You'd just be worried what people would be thinking there.
yeah.
Yeah. So, which has been the most challenging project you've worked on in your career so far?
Ooh. Um, Sophie and I just finished co-scoring a new film, which actually the title isn't confirmed yet, so I can't even say it. Uh, but it was a challenge. It was a tricky one. And it was interesting because there wasn't that much music in it, but to get the music right was a challenge. Just find to make anything stick to picture was really tricky. And I think it's one of those things where the film just works on its own. Like it doesn't always need music. I'm a big advocate of that. Like not all film needs music, and it doesn't need wall-to-wall music either. Like use music where it matters. And I think I'm proud of what we came out with at the end. I think we made something really beautiful, but it was a long road to get there, and it was quite tricky.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So my final question for you, Ian, what are some of the upcoming projects you have in the works we can look forward to?
Uh, Nothing I can say yet, actually. It's all big. I'm working on a lot of things right now. There's a lot of documentary projects that are coming. Um, I took a little bit of a breather from those for a couple of years, but I'm fully back in it now, and there's a lot more coming. There's an indie feature I'm working on right now, which I'm really excited about, and I'll just say it has a relationship to Dickinson in a way, but I won't say how. Um, and then Dead City season 2. That one I can talk about, even though I haven't scored it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you cook up with Dead City season two score. Like, super excited for a season two.
Yeah, thank you. I am too. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. So that's all of my questions for you today, Ian. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast,
Thanks, you too.
and hopefully we can talk again sometime.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Great stuff. So I look forward to talking to you again sometime, Ian.